Polynomial division. To find zero as a polynomial, it's necessary to divide one polynomial by another. Polynomial division is similar to long division with whole numbers. Reminding you, when dividing p by a number d not equal to 0, we get a quotient q and a remainder r. We can write that p divided by d equals the quotient plus the remainder over d, where the remainder 0 is less than or equal to remainder is less than d, the divisor. When you have that, it also means that the original number equals the quotient times the divisor plus the remainder. For example, 7,284 divided by 13 equals 560 plus 4 over 13, or 7,284 equals 560 times 13 plus the remainder 4. For polynomials, we really just add the same thing, except we are adding of x, so polynomial of x, divisor x. These are all polynomials. And if the remainder equals 0, either the remainder equals 0 or the degree of the remainder is less than the degree of the divisor. And that can also be written p of x equals q of x times d of x plus r of x. So let's practice. And its remainder really is like polynomial division. So we're dividing by x plus 2, and we're dividing that into x squared plus 3x plus 3. You start by asking yourself, what do you take times x to get x squared? Well, that answer is x, and I like to put it over the x term. And just like you would with long division, you take this x times the x plus 2. So at x squared plus 2x. Then, just like with long division, you subtract these. So this will be a negative. X squared will be gone. This will be a negative. And I'll have just 1x. And we bring down the 3, plus 3. Now, what do you take times x to get x plus? What do you take times x to get x? You really only have to ask that about the first term, and that would be 1. So plus 1, we multiply that. 1 times x plus 2, we get x plus 2. Subtracting that, x's are gone, and we'll get a 1. So the quotient here is x plus 1 with a remainder of 1. That would be my solution. Trying that again, the one thing we have to do when we're doing this division is to keep track of the places. So we have x squared plus 0x minus 1. You really have to keep track of the place values. So we have x to the 5th plus 0x to the 4th plus 0x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. You do need to keep track of those places. And you ask yourself, again, just look at the first terms. What do you take times x squared? Get x to the 5th. Well, that would be x cubed. And I take the x cubed times each of these terms. So I'll get an x to the 5th plus 0x to the 4th minus an x cubed. Now we have to subtract all of these. So this becomes a subtract. They're gone. Subtracting 0 doesn't do anything. But this becomes a plus. Remember that. This becomes a plus. I'm changing the signs because I'm subtracting it. So I end up with positive x cubed and bring down, because this has 3 terms, I'll bring down these next 2 terms. So I'll have 3 here also. What do you take times x squared to get x cubed? Well, that's just an x. So we'll put a plus x. We'll leave that place blank. Or you can fill in a 0x squared. So x times x squared is x cubed plus 0x squared minus x. Subtracting these, so this changes sign, and this becomes a positive. So we'll end up with x minus 1. And what would you take times x squared to get an x? You can't do that. So the quotient here ends up being my top, x cubed plus x. That's the quotient. And the remainder is x minus 1. And that is x to the first smaller than the x to the second divisor. So that would work. And here's another one to try. We're dividing by x squared minus x. Since the last term would be plus 0, we don't have to add that. 3x cubed. We seem to be missing an x squared term, so we'll put in a 0x squared minus 2x minus 1. So what do we take times x squared to get 3x cubed? That would be a 3x. So 3x times x squared will be 3x cubed minus 3x squared. Change these signs because we're subtracting. That goes out. This becomes a positive. So I have a 3x squared minus 2x. What do you take times x squared to get 3x squared? That would be 3. So plus 3 will give me 3x squared minus 3x. Change these signs for subtracting. X squareds are gone. We'll have 1x minus 1. We're out of room up here, so we know we're out of the divisor. So my quotient ended up being 3x plus 3, and my remainder is x minus 1.